Liz opened her eyes slowly, blinking against the harsh white light that flooded the hospital room. A wave of disorientation washed over her as she struggled to focus. The sterile scent of antiseptic, mixed with the rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor, confirmed her suspicion. She was in a hospital. But why? What had happened to her? She attempted to move, but a sharp, pulsing pain in her head forced a quiet groan from her lips. As she adjusted to the discomfort, something unexpected caught her attention, a golden gleam on her left hand. Confused, she lifted her arm with effort and found a delicate gold ring encircling her ring finger. A wedding ring. Panic surged through her. Married? But she didn't remember getting married. In fact, she didn't remember much at all. Her thoughts felt like a thick fog, fragmented memories drifting just beyond reach, refusing to take shape. The harder she tried to grasp them, the more they seemed to slip away. Before she could dwell on her confusion, the door to the hospital room opened, and a tall man with warm brown hair and piercing green eyes stepped inside. His face was a mixture of relief and concern as he rushed to her bedside, a soft smile breaking across his lips. "Liz, my love, I'm so glad you're awake. We were so worried," he murmured, reaching for her hand with gentle familiarity. Liz stiffened. The tenderness in his gaze felt intimate, yet he was a stranger to her. She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. Who are you?" The man's smile faltered, his expression shifting from hope to heartbreak. He slowly withdrew his hand, as though afraid of startling her. "Liz, it's me, Anthony. Your husband." His voice was quiet, laced with sorrow. Liz's heart pounded. Husband? She had a husband? But she didn't remember him, didn't remember their life together. The room seemed to close in around her, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her chest. Before she could ask anything else, the door opened again, and a doctor entered, followed by a nurse. The doctor, a middle-aged man with a kind expression, approached the bed with a reassuring smile. "Mrs. Elizabeth, it's good to see you awake. I'm Dr. Roberts. How are you feeling?" He checked the monitors, his tone gentle. Liz hesitated before answering, her fingers gripping the hospital blanket. "Confused," she admitted. "What happened to me? Why can't I remember him?" She glanced at Anthony, who stood silently, his pain evident in the way his hands clenched at his sides. The doctor exchanged a quick look with Anthony before turning back to her. "You had an accident at your flower shop 3 days ago. You were trying to reach a flower from a ladder when you lost your balance and fell, hitting your head on the surrounding tables. Head trauma like this can sometimes cause temporary memory loss." Liz tried to process his words. An accident. Memory loss. A husband she couldn't recall. It was too much, too overwhelming. She took a shaky breath, dreading the answer to her next question. "How much memory did I lose?" Dr. Roberts frowned thoughtfully. "It's difficult to determine right now. We'll need to run more tests, but based on your initial responses, it appears you've lost about 5 years. 5 years. Half a decade of her life gone." Anthony remained by her side throughout the ordeal, unwavering in his patience and kindness. He answered her hesitant questions, filling in the missing details of their life together. He told her how they met at a flower fair, where she had been selling handcrafted arrangements, her love for flowers evident in every bloom she touched. "You always dreamed of having your own flower shop," Anthony reminisced, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "We saved up for 2 years after we got married to open it. It's our baby." Liz listened, trying to bridge the gap between the life he described and the blank spaces in her mind. The idea of owning a flower shop should have brought her joy, but instead, it left her feeling like a stranger in her own story. When she was finally discharged from the hospital, Anthony brought her home, a home she didn't recognize. Yet, despite its unfamiliarity, it exuded warmth. The walls were painted in soft, calming hues, and lush green plants were scattered throughout the space, their presence both soothing and overwhelming. Photos lined the shelves, images of a life she couldn't recall. Her and Anthony, laughing together, traveling, celebrating milestones. She stared at the frozen moments of happiness, feeling like an outsider looking in. Anthony never pressured her. He gave her space, sleeping in the guest room while she occupied the master bedroom. Yet, every morning, he prepared breakfast for her, always placing a fresh flower on the tray. "You used to say there's no better way to start the day than with the scent of flowers," he explained with a shy smile. Liz found herself watching him when he wasn't aware, observing the way his brow furrowed in concentration, how tenderly he cared for the plants, the way his entire face lit up when she asked about their past. Days turned into weeks. She spent hours at the flower shop, reacquainting herself with the world she had built but no longer remembered. The scent of roses, lilies, and jasmine seemed to stir something deep within her, awakening a distant familiarity her mind couldn't fully grasp. One afternoon, while arranging vases, a sudden wave of dizziness washed over her. Images flickered in her mind. She and Anthony, laughing as they painted the store walls, the excitement of welcoming their first customer, the joy of creating a special bouquet for a wedding. "Liz, are you okay?" Anthony's concerned voice pulled her back to the present. She blinked, her breath unsteady. I think I remembered something." Hope lit up his eyes. "What did you see?" She described the fragmented memories, watching as Anthony's expression softened with emotion. "It really happened, didn't it?" she asked hesitantly. "Yes, my love," he whispered, his voice thick with feeling. "It was one of the happiest days of our lives." That small flash of memory became a turning point. Liz threw herself into the shop, relearning the techniques she had once mastered. Her hands seemed to remember what her mind had forgotten, moving instinctively as she worked with the flowers. Though much of her past remained elusive, she and Anthony found a new rhythm, rediscovering each other day by day. One evening, as they sat on the porch after dinner, Anthony mentioned a nearby park where they used to have Sunday picnics. "Would you like to go there tomorrow?" he asked, his voice tinged with hope. Liz hesitated, the unknown still daunting. But something inside her urged her forward. "Yes," she said softly. "I'd love to." The next morning, they walked hand in hand through the park, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers. Under the shade of a towering oak tree, Anthony spread out a checkered blanket and unpacked a small feast. As they ate, Liz found herself watching him, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, the warmth in his smile. A feeling stirred within her, something deep and familiar. And for the first time since waking in that hospital room, she felt like she was coming home. Anthony threw his head back when he laughed, his deep, rich voice filling the air like music. The way his eyes lingered on Liz, filled with warmth and devotion, sent a strange yet familiar flutter through her chest. His touch, gentle, steady, was enough to send a shiver down her spine. She didn't remember everything, but she knew this feeling. And then, like lightning splitting the sky, a memory surged forward, vivid and breathtaking. She saw herself in this very spot, years ago, bathed in golden sunlight, her heart pounding as Anthony knelt on the soft grass before her. His hands trembled slightly as he opened a small velvet box, revealing a delicate ring inside. His voice, nervous yet filled with love, echoed in her mind. Tears welled in her eyes as she turned to him, her breath hitching. "Anthony," she whispered, "this is where you proposed to me, isn't it?" His face lit up with a mixture of joy and disbelief. "Yes, my love," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "It was right here." Liz closed her eyes, surrendering to the memory that wrapped around her like a warm embrace. She could see it so clearly now, the way he fumbled with his words, the sunlight reflecting off the ring, the way she had laughed through her own tears before throwing herself into his arms. She remembered the sheer, overwhelming happiness of saying yes, the way his lips had met hers in a kiss so full of love that it had stolen her breath. When she opened her eyes again, she found Anthony watching her, love shining in his gaze. Without hesitation, without a single doubt, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his in a soft, lingering kiss. The moment their lips met, a spark ignited within her. It was as if something deep inside her had been asleep, waiting for this exact moment to awaken. The warmth of his embrace, the familiar way he held her, brought a rush of emotion so intense that she felt like she was falling in love all over again. That kiss changed everything. From that day forward, more and more memories began to return. Some were fleeting, fragments of laughter, the scent of their wedding cake, the sound of Anthony's voice calling her name. Others were vivid and whole, as if no time had passed at all. She remembered the golden beaches of their honeymoon, the late nights they spent dreaming about their future, the quiet, intimate moments when he would trace patterns on her skin as they lay together, talking about nothing and everything. With every recovered memory, her love for Anthony deepened. But it wasn't just love based on the past. It was something stronger, something unshakable, something that had survived even when her mind had failed her. 2 months after the accident, on a quiet evening at home, Liz decided it was time. She prepared a special dinner, filling the house with the soft glow of candlelight and the delicate scent of fresh flowers. Every corner of the room reflected the love she felt in her heart. As she waited for Anthony to return from work, Her fingers trembled slightly with anticipation. When he stepped through the door and took in the scene before him, his eyes widened in surprise. "Liz, what's all this?" he asked, a slow smile spreading across his lips. Liz stepped toward him, taking his hands in hers. "Anthony," she began, her voice thick with emotion, "I want to thank you. For everything. For your patience, your kindness, your love. You never gave up on me, even when I didn't remember you. And because of that, not only have I recovered my memories, but I've fallen in love with you all over again." Anthony's breath caught, his green eyes glistening with unshed tears. Liz swallowed, gathering the courage to say what was in her heart. "I remember everything now, our first meeting, our wedding, our life together. But I realized something, Anthony. Even if I had never remembered, I still would have fallen in love with you. Because loving you isn't just something I did in the past. It's something I feel now, something I will always feel." She took a deep breath, steadying herself before dropping to one knee. "So, Anthony, my love, will you marry me?" Again, for a moment, he was speechless, his expression unreadable. Then, with a radiant smile, he pulled her to her feet and into a tight embrace, his heart pounding against hers. "Yes, my love," he whispered, his voice breaking. 1,000 times yes. Their kiss that night was different. It was filled with promise, with passion, with the certainty that no matter what life threw their way, they would always find their way back to each other. In the months that followed, they planned a vow renewal ceremony, an intimate, deeply personal celebration shared with only their closest friends and family. Liz poured her heart into transforming the flower shop into a paradise of blossoms, every petal carefully chosen, every arrangement crafted with love. As they stood together on the day of the ceremony, exchanging vows once more, Liz looked into Anthony's eyes and felt nothing but gratitude. The accident that had nearly taken everything from her had given her something precious in return, a second chance to cherish the love they shared. After the ceremony, as they walked hand in hand through their guests, Liz turned to Anthony and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me, for making me fall in love with you every single day." Anthony smiled, brushing a loose curl from her face. "I always knew our love was too strong to be forgotten," he murmured. "Even when you didn't remember me, I could see it in your eyes. Your heart always knew." A deep warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of absolute certainty. No matter what the future held, she knew one thing for sure. She and Anthony would face it together. That night, as they danced under the stars, wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by the fragrance of the flowers they both loved so dearly, Liz knew that their love had defied all odds. Because sometimes it takes losing something to truly understand its worth. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, love will find a way to bloom again, stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than before.